right?
I give Shedeur a little bit of advice. He looked...
Actually, no. I don't want you giving Shedeur advice.
Riz on the sideline.
Yeah, listen to this, Chris. Now, this pissed me off. Now, this did.
With the backwards hat and the sunglasses and the look of it, I would just remind Shedeur, lock in on the game. Wow. Watch the game.
What?
It is the sickest feeling you can imagine because your mistake hurts so many other people. And it is hard to shake.
They say pressure reveals character. But what happens when criticism becomes a weapon? Over the last few weeks, Shedeur Sanders, the rising QB many hailed as a future face of the NFL, has found himself at the center of a controversy that's both bizarre and telling. Forget interceptions. Forget fumbles. This has nothing to do with stats and everything to do with perception. Because somehow, a backwards hat, a pair of sunglasses, and even supporting his teammate became reasons to tear him down. But not everyone's standing by and letting it slide. When ESPN host Tony Rizzo heard his co-host downplay Shedeur's leadership, make passive-aggressive suggestions, and hint that he's not really locked in, Rizzo didn't just clap back. He exploded on air. Why? According to Rizzo, this wasn't just a bad take. It was part of something much bigger. Something deeper. Something most fans aren't even seeing unfold in real time.
It's the ones the whole time in training camp. There has to be a reason for this. And the only thing I can come up with is that he's not putting the work in off the field. I asked Aaron. I said, Aaron today, I go, man, I said, I'm a little bummed, a little bored. There's no Shedeur buzz going on. He's a third string quarterback. And Aaron goes, oh, there's Shedeur buzz. And I'm like, what? He didn't do anything. He didn't get in the game.
So what exactly pushed Tony Rizzo to the edge? Why are people going out of their way to shame Shedeur Sanders for just being himself? And is this all part of a narrative crafted to quietly smear one of the most talked about QBs of the next generation? It all started with a missed field goal. Late in a tough game, Browns kicker Andre Smith missed a go-ahead attempt, a moment that could have crushed team morale. Most players looked frustrated, defeated. But one person walked over, calmly approached Smith, and said something only the two of them heard. That person? Shedeur Sanders. By all accounts, it was a moment of leadership. A young quarterback, still technically the third-string option, stepping up to support a struggling teammate. Cameras caught the interaction, and it should have become a quietly inspiring clip that faded into the highlight reel. Instead, it lit a firestorm.
The Browns fan base, as always on this issue, is divided. There are half the people who thought that him going over to Schmitty Kicker and telling him it'll be okay.
Oh, my.
Like, because on TV, the one shot of Andre Schmidt on the sideline after the missed field goal.
Oh, and you think Shedeur just happened to know what
I'm not telling you what I think. I will tell you what I think.
You think he pre-planned that to get his face on camera?
That's what some Browns fans think. And others think that he was being a great teammate, and that shows you why ultimately he'll be the leader and franchise quarterback of the Browns.
I want everyone to consider the source here. I'm not in the building. I don't know what the deal is. I'm a fan. I'm just looking at this from the outside looking in, and there's got to be something to it. There got to be.
There was one
consoling a teammate? That's not good.
Rather than applauding Shedeur for leading in a moment of crisis, critics online and even members of the local media accused him of doing it for clout, saying he knew the cameras were on and that the whole interaction was for show. Just take that in for a second. A guy consoles a heartbroken kicker, doesn't yell, doesn't flex, doesn't make a scene, and yet somehow he's the one taking heat for it. That's when the tone shifted. Suddenly, small moments turned into big talking points. People began watching Shedeur's every move, not for highlights, but for anything they could twist against him. It wasn't about football anymore. It was about optics and agenda. Because once the narrative starts, anyone trying to be himself, especially someone with confidence like Shedeur, becomes a target. But that was just the beginning. The scrutiny would only get louder, and what critics said next would cross the line.
Who said he wasn't? Didn't Flacco have a hat on backwards? Doesn't Doesn't Jalen Hurts do that all the time? He's done it. You're knocking a kid for wearing his hat backwards?
I didn't say that.
Man,
I said, Riz, hold on. I said, watching
you know what?
him.
Let him go somewhere else. Let him go play for somebody. Let him go win a Super Bowl for somebody else. Honestly.
Well, if you're going to speculate about him not working super hard.
No, I'm not speculating. I'm saying something's going on.
There was a difference between him and Gabriel, the way they were watching.
You'd think in the NFL, where players get slammed to the ground every few minutes, people would have thicker skin. But apparently, a backwards hat and a pair of sunglasses is all it takes to ignite outrage. If your name is Shedeur Sanders. During the Browns game, Shedeur wasn't even dressed to play. He was listed as the emergency quarterback, meaning he'd only touch the field if disaster struck. And yet, there he was, on the sideline, calm, composed. Rocking a fitted hat backwards and tinted shades. Pretty normal look, right? Apparently not. Critics pounced on it instantly. He's not locked in. He looks too relaxed. He's more worried about how he looks than learning the game. They weren't analyzing football anymore. They were judging a look. But here's what doesn't add up. Shedeur's outfit? It's the same sideline style you'll see from veteran QBs across the league.
Instant takeaway was, I thought it was appropriate that a fan threw a Buzz Pleasure Palace onto the field because no team in the NFL likes to screw themselves better than the Cleveland Browns. They know how to carve out the organs of their fan base with the blowtorch and rusty pliers.
Yep.
And the kicker this week happened to be the surgeon scrubbing in, and he's all thumbs. Andre Schmidt, the poor guy. We'll get to him in a minute.
Oh.
Jalen Hurts, Joe Flacco, even Tom Brady's been seen like that. No one batted an eye. No headlines. No fake concern. So why is it suddenly a problem when Shedeur does it? That's where the double standards come in. Because the moment Shedeur showed confidence, showed comfort on the sideline, it wasn't seen as cool or composed. It was twisted into arrogance. It wasn't about attire. It was about the narrative certain voices were desperate to push. And when one ESPN Cleveland host tried to use Shedeur's outfit as a reason to question his commitment, that's when Tony Rizzo couldn't take it anymore. It was supposed to be another routine segment, just sports talk, back and forth between two radio hosts on ESPN Cleveland. Then, someone crossed a line.
On our thoughts, and it's hard. I mean, listen, when you lose football games, that's what happens. You're going to have plays that you look back on and think about, and those guys, they played a really strong game for us today. Like I said, I think when you look at this film, you're going to see a lot of guys that did a lot of really good things. We just had some names that really did us.
As the Shedeur criticism kept pouring in, Tony Rizzo's co-host decided to throw his opinion into the mix. He started dissecting Shedeur's body language, his focus. Even had the audacity to say, "Can I give him a little advice? He needs to lock in. Watch the game." That was it. That one smug comment, that lit the fuse. Tony Rizzo snapped. Live on air, his frustration exploded. "You're knocking a kid for wearing his hat backwards? You want to give him advice? For what?" His voice cut through the segment like a blade. And what came next was total disbelief. Let him go win a Super Bowl for someone else then. That's not debate. That's pure exasperation. To Rizzo, this wasn't just about football anymore. It was about watching a young black quarterback under a microscope for things every other QB gets a pass on. How he dresses, whether he smiles, the way he walks. Even his sunglasses became evidence in a fake argument that questioned his focus.
We had a conversation early that morning, and then we had a conversation later that day. I think we had the right people involved in the conversation. At the end of the day, that's Andrew Berry's call. Andrew made the call to pick Shedeur. Just like who's going to start or what play we're going to call is Kevin's call. But that's Andrew's call. He made the
get that it would be cool if this was a, hey, we're going to cleanse this of 2 years, but we've been cleansing this from everybody that's been in the organization.
What bothered Rizzo wasn't just the take. It was the pattern. Because when you keep looking for things to criticize, even when there's nothing there, it starts looking less like analysis and more like a smear campaign. And Rizzo said what a lot of people had been thinking, but were too cautious to say. There's something off about the way Shedeur is being covered. It's not honest, it's not fair, and it's not just happening by accident. But Rizzo's outburst was only the start. Because once he said it on air, people began connecting the dots, and they started asking, is this bigger than just one quarterback? Once Tony Rizzo called it out, you couldn't unsee it. This wasn't just about Shedeur Sanders talking to a kicker or wearing a hat the wrong way. It wasn't about performance, stats, or wins and losses. It was about something quieter, more calculated. A wave of subtle discrediting that's followed every move he's made since stepping into the spotlight.
I feel like saying something to people in that situation, especially if you don't know them that well. You don't know if you're adding unnecessary pressure, if he's already in that mindset. And, there's going to be situations like this again. He's going to make those kicks, and and we're going to be better for it. We're going to win those games. So there's no.
And the more you look at it, the more it feels familiar. Because this isn't the first time someone from the Sanders family has made the sports world uncomfortable. Deion Sanders, Shedeur's father and college coach, faced the same media frenzy when he took a one-win Colorado team and turned it into a cultural movement overnight. His confidence? Called arrogance. His belief in his kids? Called nepotism. His methods? Called unprofessional. Sound familiar? Now the same playbook is being dusted off for Shedeur, and the attacks? They feel less like honest analysis and more like efforts to remind him he's not supposed to belong. The spotlight may be on his arm and his poise, but the whispers around the league are about image, status, style, things that have nothing to do with football. And the worst part? These criticisms don't show up unprovoked. They get triggered every time Shedeur steps outside the box of what a young quarterback should look like. Confident? Problematic. Stylish? Distracted. Talks to the media? Entitled. Stays silent? Detached. No matter what he does, it seems like someone's waiting to twist it. And now, people are starting to ask, is this bigger than just one athlete? Because if Shedeur's getting targeted this hard before he's even taken over the starting role, what happens when he finally dominates? Once someone puts a label on you in the public eye, it sticks, especially in sports. And when it comes to Shedeur Sanders, that label didn't come from interceptions, poor play, or locker room drama. It came from opinions, assumptions, and a carefully crafted narrative, shaped by voices that hold the mic, not the facts. And here's how the game works. A media figure makes a subtle jab. He's not locked in. He's all flash, no focus. Then a few blogs echo it. Social media clips get cut just the right way. Now suddenly, millions of fans, most of whom haven't even watched the full context, are convinced Shedeur's a diva or a distraction. This isn't coverage. This is controlled messaging. Find a moment, even something positive, and flip it. Consoles a teammate? Doing it for clout. Wears shades? Not serious. Promotes his brand? Selfish. That's how narratives are weaponized. Not by lying outright, but by twisting truth into suspicion. And the people doing it know exactly what they're doing, because it works. Once the public buys in, teams may hesitate. Sponsors take a second look. Coaches start answering questions that never needed to be asked. It becomes easier to question his maturity, less risky to bench him, more acceptable to say, we're going in a different direction. And here's the big truth. Narratives like this don't stick to everyone. Not all players get picked apart over their sideline energy. Not all QBs are scrutinized for wearing sunglasses or standing quietly. But when you're Shedeur Sanders, the son of one of the most outspoken icons in football, and someone who proudly represents a new kind of athlete, you become the target for control. The question is no longer if there's a narrative. It's who benefits from it and why. Here's the uncomfortable truth no one in mainstream sports media wants to admit. If Shedeur Sanders was named Sean Smith and didn't play for Deion, there wouldn't be a controversy. Let's be real. Quarterbacks wear backwards hats. They rock designer shades. They laugh on the sidelines. Nobody says a word, unless it's Shedeur. Joe Flacco, backwards hat after every series. Jalen Hurts, shades on, cool as ever. Trevor Lawrence, headphones in, smiling at teammates while down 20. No hot takes, no debates, no questions about focus or leadership. But when Shedeur does it, it suddenly means he's detached, too flashy, not built for the pros. The same actions get judged through two completely different lenses, and fans are starting to catch on. It's not about the sideline behavior. It's about who's doing it. And when that who is a confident, young, black quarterback with a famous last name and no interest in playing the media's little game, that's when they turn the microscope up to max. Let's not forget, this isn't new. Cam Newton got called immature and a showboat for celebrating. Lamar Jackson, still labeled just an athlete by scouts even after winning MVP. Now it's Shedeur in the crosshairs. Before he's even the official starter. The message is clear. When you carry swagger, pride, and a platform into the game, they'll love you until you start winning too much or talking too loud. Then the rules change. You're expected to shrink, apologize, smile more, stand still, and stay grateful. But Shedeur isn't playing that game. He knows it's rigged, and like his father before him, he's refusing to fold. And yet with every step he takes forward, the pushback grows stronger. Which begs the question, if this is how they treat him now, what's coming next? When Tony Rizzo spoke up, it wasn't just radio static. It was a ripple effect. Clips of the outburst went viral. Fans were suddenly paying attention to something deeper than football. And the reactions were loud, split, and telling. On one side, you had the usual critics doubling down. He needs to be humbled. He hasn't earned the hype. His father's influence is clouding the media. They weren't debating football. They were questioning his right to even be in the conversation. But on the other side, a growing wave of fans, players, and voices in sports who said, enough is enough. People began pointing out the hypocrisy, comparing clips, calling out the petty takes, showing the receipts. And here's where it gets even bigger. This moment isn't isolated. Shedeur Sanders is walking into the NFL future with a spotlight that many rookies don't get, but also a burden they never have to carry. Every interview, every tweet, every clip of him breathing on the sideline will be judged. Narrative over performance. Optics over outcome. And the question becomes, can he survive that pressure? Truth is, Shedeur never asked for special treatment, but he refuses to dim his light to make people feel more comfortable. He's not playing the media-friendly quarterback role. He's playing his role, and he's betting that his play will eventually silence the nonsense. But will the league let him just be a player? Or will they keep forcing him to prove a point that nobody else ever had to? One thing's for sure, the path won't be fair. But if Shedeur stays true to himself, it might just be legendary. Shedeur Sanders hasn't thrown a single pass as a starting NFL quarterback. And yet somehow, he's already the subject of debates, doubts, and dig-down hit pieces that have nothing to do with the ball. Think about that. He supports a teammate after a tough moment. That's clout chasing. He wears a backwards hat. That's unprofessional. He's calm on the sideline. Suddenly, he's not focused. The truth is, we've watched narratives shape careers. Sometimes they build legends. Other times, they bury them. And right now, Shedeur's caught in the middle of that brutal spotlight where perception weighs more than potential, and image matters more than leadership. But here's what no one's prepared for. He might thrive anyway. Because as unfair and exhausting as it is, what Shedeur's enduring now is proving something far bigger than talent. It's testing his patience, character, and ability to stay locked in when the noise gets loud and the deck feels stacked. And maybe that's the part his critics fear the most. Not that he's all flash, but that despite it all, he's actually built for this. Tony Rizzo saw what was happening and couldn't stay silent. He recognized a destructive pattern. one that's crushed potential for decades. And he called it out, live, unfiltered, loud. Because this isn't just about a quarterback. It's about how quickly opinion becomes judgment and how judgment becomes limitation. So the next time you see the headlines, ask yourself, am I watching football or falling for the script? Because in the world of sports, perception isn't just powerful,